Using the SIOP, or the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, um, I'm going to rate my lesson of what is a cricket. Um, so, starting off, for the lesson preparation, the content objectives I felt were stated clearly, as well as write an example of what I would want the kids to, or the students to do. Um, as well as for the language objectives, I felt that they were also clear as to write. For example, I wanted them to listen to their peers, to what they thought it was a cricket, or what is a cricket, and just write down a sentence of write their explanations. So for the supplementary materials, I would rate it 2. I felt like maybe we could have used more. Right, I only had, simple things such as color pencils, paper, markers, things that are available in the classroom. I use those materials because they're just more easily accessible, and you can have many of them, for all the students to be able to use. Um, and also, as for the chart, I think it's a better visual, instead of watching something on a screen. It's right in front of them. It is able to be moved around. And the chart I'm talking about is right for the crickets. What is a cricket and what is not. Um, and for the insect box as well, I think, maybe I could have brought, a bigger box with more insects. So I'll give myself a 2 on that one. For the adaptation, I think I would rate it a 3. I know that some activities such as the, you know, right, communicating with other peers, right, about their thoughts and ideas may be a little bit difficult if they do not know, right, the English language. But, for the first activity, I did have them sound out and write the letters that go into cricket, and I think that's a little better activity for students that are barely learning the English language. So I'll give myself a 3. For meaningful activities, as I said, those activities, I use them in order to get the students to gradually get into like the main activity at the end, which is drawing a cricket, labeling their body parts, and other descriptions of a cricket. But starting off something small like sounds and letters, up to communicating their thoughts and ideas, and then at the very end, right, sharing their final description or statement of what a cricket is. So for the background, concept explicitly linked, um, I will give myself a 3 as well. I think that um, this this lesson included, well, I felt like I asked them the necessary questions in order to get, you know, their experience of what they had with the cricket, what they think a cricket is, into the lesson. Right, like what is a cricket? Is a cricket real or fake? Or what encounters have they had? I included that in there as well. For the links explicitly made, I could have done better. I would give myself a 2 on that one, because I only explained, right, or I only told them, right, oh, remember what they remember you guys have been learning this prior to write this activity, and I didn't really explain what they did. So, they may have forgotten, or they may have just needed a refresher. So I could have added that in there. For key vocabulary, I I will give myself a 3. I think that, I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted the main focus to be on them explaining what a cricket is, and not really be too focused on the amount of vocabulary they have to remember or focus on. But the vocabulary that I did have in there, I I think it was necessary for the lesson, and it should be able to really help them grasp the areas that cover around the cricket. So, for comprehensible input for speech, as I said, the communicating part may be difficult for them, but for the end activity, which is right drawing or creating a little informational sheet about a cricket, I think that part will be a little bit better for the students that are not too fluent in English, because all they need to do is present. They can point out right what they did and compare without having to go on a full-on conversation. Which so I can give myself a 3 on that one. For the variety of techniques, I think I did implement a lot of activities, right? Not just one, because that one may not have been able to cover like the requirements that maybe students needed to actually understand the concept. So I took it baby steps, and I'll give myself a 3 on that one as well. For the strategies, I think I would give myself a 1. Although I did implement a lot of activities, maybe I could have explained to them a little bit more why we did those activities, and what they'll be useful for, and maybe just covering them again, right, as they finish those activities, right, recapping just really quick what they just did. So for the interaction, I would give myself a 4. I really wanted this activity or lesson to include the students, right? Fluent or not fluent, I wanted them to interact and become more comfortable with expressing their thoughts and ideas. Whether they don't really understand it yet, but at least they'll be able to use that critical thinking to get the point or their ideas across. For grouping and configurations, I would also give myself a 4. I would start them for that first activity, right? For the sounds and letters, I had them first do it individually, right? But immediately that activity would involve, right, them showing their peers right across from them, to see, compare and contrast their, I guess, like their sounds, or if they were similar. And right, going on for the next activities, it does involve small group and then a whole group as a class. And for the wait time for the students, I think these activities are not so time consuming. I would give myself a 2 for not stating that, but I did create these activities so that students, can quickly. The difficulty wasn't that hard for them to take forever, but it would allow them to quickly do that activity, share their thoughts, and then get back to the next activity. For clarifying key concepts, I think I would give myself a 2 as well. I don't think I clearly stated what they were for, as I had mentioned before, but I think those activities are really well prepared to where I think the students would be able to know. I mean, I would state the overall end objective, and I think I would get a great result. Just I guess like in the small activities, I should have maybe put, right, like I said, maybe like a recap, right, what they had learned in between. For practice and application for the hands-on materials, I would give myself a 4. I think that the students, those activities, they're busy all the time. I'm making sure that they're working on, and they're always thinking about the overall lesson, which is, right, the cricket. They always have that in the back of their mind because we're building up to that. For integrating the language skills, um, I would give myself a I would give myself a one, I guess, because I didn't really implement anything Spanish or any other English wise. I guess like the activity or the prior module, I should have implemented that, knowing right that of course that's what the lesson's for, um, to being able to integrate all students, but I didn't do it for the fact that I think that a cricket is really something worldwide that people may know, that should know, and I would use that knowledge or their knowledge to be able to communicate with them, not necessarily right um having it in one language, but if they're able to do it in their language, right, they can communicate that, or like as I said, right, use your critical thinking to go ahead and translate that in a picture word way. So for the lesson delivery, um, I the content objectives, like I said, I would give myself a 3. I think I did clearly state them at the beginning, right? The student will be able to label the body parts of a cricket, right, using the picture, and the student will be able to identify key details about a cricket, right, using the insect box and the chart. Um, I think those content objectives were very clear. Language objectives, that I think is clear as well, using those small groups. And also the whole group, I think it will support the main content objective. Student engaged, I would rate myself a 4. I think the students will constantly be, learning with their peers, from their peers, right? And also just being actively engaged. Um, for pacing, the pacing, I would give myself a 2. I didn't mention right how long I wanted these lessons, but I think that this lesson or project would be able to be paced well, because it doesn't involve right. I think it's in between students from that are non-English speaking students, and the ones that are a little bit fluent more in English. I think they'd be able to communicate and interact more just based off of the main objective, which is what is a cricket, and learning about a cricket. They'd be able to communicate in their own thoughts and ideas, no matter the language. Um, for the review and assessment, review key vocabulary, I would give myself a I would give myself a 3, because I do know that I implemented that in my last activity, and that last activity is the one I'm going to be presenting to the class, which is right labeling the body parts in that picture. So for the review of key concepts, I think that I would give myself a 3 as well. I would ensure right that they uh, know why they did these lessons, and I would also ensure right them when they start presenting their things to the class, they can clearly state to their peers uh, their statement or their idea of what is a cricket. For feedback, I think that I would give myself a 2. I didn't mention right any feedback from the students. I guess the feedback would mostly be right when the students are presenting to the class their picture, you know, maybe comparing students' work to each other, and maybe explaining to them what this picture has that theirs doesn't, and that I did not mention. For the assessment of student comprehension and learning, I'd give myself a 3, not a 4, right? Because I had, missed some things, right? Like a spacing and maybe feedback, but the rest I think covered really well to the main objective. And it all supports and, relates to what I would want them to learn, and just also the main goal to be able to communicate and engage with their peers. So, um, the aspects and of best practices for English learners that were present and absent in this lesson, I think the ones that were absent in this lesson were, being able to maybe just have a little bit more activity maybe that involves more of the, non-English speaking student side. So that way the other, right, maybe English fluent students may be able to have to turn the tables and, have to learn a little bit of the other language. That's maybe one of the things that were absent. Something that was present was, just communicating, engaging in conversation, or just, engaging in another way, which is through the pictures, right? Something that doesn't need to be said, more like just presented. And I think that I did that very well. So that's my rating on my lesson. Thank you.